Alright guys, Fuller coming to you with another video. Shout outs to the whole LDBC. If you like this video, please feel free to like the video. And if you want to subscribe to the page, I invite you to subscribe to the page. Always by choice, never by force. And also hit the notification icon while you're at it. So today is a very, very special day. Now, I feel kind of bad. In fact, I should have made preparations for it. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe I can still get what I want to get done. But I wanted to make a birthday cake for a very significant figure that really altered that shaped my thinking. You know what I mean? That made me realize that there's a lot that comes with fighting for your sovereignty, fighting for your freedom, and fighting for your human decency. Okay? And so, he also made me realize that it's okay to be quiet. It's okay. You're not weird if you're like not talking that much in a group, or, you know, that you kind of, you know, are reclusive. That's not weird. But that when it's time for the front line, it's on and cracking. And the individual I'm talking about is none other than Antonio Maceo Grajales. And for those of you guys who don't know, Antonio Maceo was a Cuban freedom fighter. And he fought for Cuba's independence from Spain. But his life, you can make into a movie. As a matter of fact, it needs to be done. A documentary needs to be done on his life. As a matter of fact, I would say maybe an animated documentary would need to be done on his life. Now, Antonio Maceo was born on this day, June 14th, in 1845. There is some misconception about, you know, his birth, his lineage, like his background. You know, the Cubans corrected when I went to Cuba and asked them about it and things like that. And there's a book that I had that corrected it as well. But they basically said that he came from a mulatto father who was from Venezuela, a Venezuela freedman, and a black mother. But the Cubans corrected me, and in the books they said that all his family, though, was just already rooted in Santiago de Cuba, that there was no link to Venezuela at all. And so the thing is about him and his family, they were kind of like a well-to-do family because they had land and they were cultivating the land. But the problem is that the Spaniards were, you know, exploiting the local communities. And the local communities were made up of pretty much what you see what Cuba is today, a mixture of different people, right? And so that sprung Antonio Maceo and his family into action to fight for the liberation of Cuba. Okay? Now, his mom really played with the isms, okay? Many people think that, oh, they just come from this Catholic family. But, I'm going to tell you something. There was definitely some, I want to say some African esoteric practices mixed in, because even with her ceremony about sending her sons to war to fight for independence, I mean, I read it in a book, and it was pretty much like esoteric ceremony. You know what I mean? And so, Antonio Maceo, he went on many campaigns, okay? But this is the misconstrued thing that a lot of people get about Antonio Maceo. A lot of people just think Antonio Maceo was a general, right? This man was a very cultured man. Antonio Maceo was extremely cultured, okay? If you read the books about Antonio Maceo, you'll know that, he would constantly educate himself. He would constantly be seeking out teachers and things like that to constantly educate himself on different affairs, different matters, politics, all types of things. But don't get it twisted. When it came to the battles, he was a freaking savage. And one of his favorite weapons was that machete, or that machete, that cutlass, whatever you want to call it. That was one of his favorite things. In fact, I think in one battle he used two of them. I'm telling you, in battle he was a savage, okay? I mean, definitely got the respect of his enemies. That's for darn sure, okay? The Spaniards did not, a lot of times the Spaniards did not want smoke with him. They tried in many battles, he was injured all the time. Constantly getting injured, shot, cut, everything. But somehow he would bounce back. Another thing about him is, I think, from the descriptions and just from the statue of Antonio Maceo and Santiago de Cuba, he was a physically imposing man. So it was like he was physically imposing, but he was still fast and swift. That's what some of the descriptions of him were. You know what I mean? And so the thing is, because Haiti, that's the correct way to pronounce it, Haiti, okay? Because they just did what they did, kicked it off, became the first black republic, the first free black republic, right? Unfortunately, even in the Cuban Liberation Army, the hints of colonialism did not leave, okay? And so what happened is the Spaniards was through this propaganda, because Antonio Maceo, I even asked Cubans, a lot of the Cubans say, yeah, he was black. They say Antonio Maceo, black guy, So, with this being said, him being black, this kind of led to, like, I want to say, a fear that, and here's the thing about Antonio Maceo. Antonio Maceo didn't look at color. He looked at the liberation of Latin America first and foremost. As a matter of fact, he said once Cuba's liberated, he's going after Puerto Rico. That was his next thing to do. He was going to try to liberate Puerto Rico. Okay? So with that being said, problems really started with, that propaganda that the Spaniards were spitting. The Spaniards said, oh, because in the ranks you had a variety of races in the ranks of the Cuban Liberation Army. You had mestizos, you had Africans, you had mulattoes, you had morenos, you had probably very few of just pure, European descent, like blancas or blancos. You have very few of those, but they were probably still in the ranks nonetheless, right? So when this happened, okay, Antonio Maceo, they became disenfranchised, and they kind of started treating him different and things like that. And so, he became disenfranchised with the whole struggle. And so, and they even questioned his intentions, like, okay, why are you doing that? Why are you fighting? And, because of that, Antonio Maceo, you know what he said? He said, you know what, guys, I'm gone. And so what he did is he went to different places. But that wasn't the only reason why he left. There were other reasons why, okay? And I'm going to get to those reasons. But this video, I know it's not going to do him justice, but I hope I can do him, I hope wherever he is right now, that he will be proud, or he'll smile wherever he is, because he definitely has had an impact on my life, on God, on hood. So back to what I was talking about, the reason why Antonio Maceo, he withdrew from the fight of the Spanish Independence War is because of the simple fact that Antonio Maceo, although he was a general, a lieutenant, moved up in rank very quickly, he wasn't the one who was really calling the shots of the operation. You know what I mean? He was just getting in where he fit in, but he just did a darn good job fitting in. And so the one who was really calling the shots and doing all of that and getting all the logistics down and things like that, and just giving, the insight to the independence by making propaganda, trying to raise money from Cuban what's that word? Expatriates or something, some word like that, but just basically Cubans in the diaspora, Cubans who were working in New York, Cubans who were working in, I want to say in Miami, Cubans who were working in different parts of Latin America. Jose Marti was responsible for, raising the money and raising the funds for them in order for them to, how should I put it, in order for them to continue the fight, okay? And so, with that being said, Antonio Maceo took a seat, and I'm going to say one more thing about the whole independence and things like that. I love this subject, and sometimes I know I go off the deep end on this subject, and sometimes I know I get carried away with this subject. But, there were many elements in this Cuban independence war fight. Flor Crombie, I think his name was it was either Flor Crombie or Flor Crochet or something like that. I forgot. I have to look at the book. He was of Haitian descent. I want to say that, what's his name? Maximo Gomez. He was of Dominican descent, okay? So you have many different elements in the fight for the Cuban independence. Now back to Jose Marti, when the independence fight was going to commence again, Antonio Maceo didn't just stay idle. He didn't just stay idle and be in his feelings. The crazy thing about Antonio Maceo is he was a very, very, very shrewd entrepreneur, okay? He set up business in Costa Mesa, Costa Rica. You know, he did business there. He had business in Honduras. He had business in different places. I believe that, Antonio Maceo had quite a few hectares of land wherever he was at. You know what I mean? And so it just goes to show that he was on his thing, that he was on his tip. So this is one of the things that I like about him too, is that he was a well-rounded cultural man. The thing is this, that one thing is that Antonio Maceo, his renown spread to places like Honduras, places that he went actually too. He went to Honduras, he went to Haiti, he went to Jamaica, he went to, there was another country in Latin America in which he went to. And his notoriety spread. I believe he also went to New York. Okay? And so, the crazy thing about this whole situation is that Jose Marti, as I said before, Jose Marti was kind of like the architect of the whole thing, whereas Antonio Maceo was the guy on the front line. You know what I mean? And I'm going to tell you something else before I segue back into Jose Marti. The thing I liked about Antonio Maceo a lot is that he hated Cubans who collaborated with the Spanish more than he hated the Spanish. And so that's why, I adopted that way of thinking when it comes to the conscious community. Like, I hate the conscious community more than I do the purveyors of imperialism, due to the simple fact that they know what they're doing is wrong, and that they're doing it to their own people. So that's why I dislike them even more than I do the perpetuators of what we see going on today, with the George Floyds and things like that, because by you oppressing your own people, you're actually just assisting in the oppressor. You know what I mean? So that's why I dislike it a lot. That's what makes me pissed about the whole situation. You know what I mean? So back to Jose Marti. So Jose Marti, he goes on, he gets back to fighting, he gets the independence battle underway again. And the crazy thing is in the first battle that Jose Marti fought, he got killed. Which kind of goes to show that he indeed was the architect of the operation, and he probably was better suited just to, keep doing the administrative things that he was doing. You know what I mean? And so, but still, even with the divisions and things like that, Antonio Maceo, being the person that he is, he had no ill will towards Jose Marti when he died. And he actually paid his respects and paid homage to him, And so, that just goes to show you what type of stand-up person he was. You know what I mean? And so, I really want to say that, unfortunately, with the death of Antonio Maceo, the problem with that is the simple fact that, there is some talk that he was set up, when he got killed. And, when he got killed, it was like, I believe he got hit in the stomach a couple of times, and he got hit in the chest as well. Or I mean, he got hit in the head as well. I think he took a bullet to the head as well. I have to read the biography again with Antonio Maceo, but you know, he died on the field. You know, he was a very, very vigilant fighter. You know, there's been a little bit written about him, but in the English language there hasn't been so much written about him. There's only been like small things and small tracts written about him. That honestly, there's only one. The only autobiography, or I should say, the only biography I know of is the Bronze Titan one, and I read that already. And you know, it doesn't really hurt to reread it, because I mean, there's honestly, when you read a book, you kind of have to read it more than once, because there's things that you pick up that necessarily you may have skipped that you can pick up on. You know what I mean? But I do have 2 Spanish language books of him that I need to tap into. And probably on my return trip to Cuba, which is postponed due to this COVID-19, I'll pick up another book of his, but it's very, very rare. It's a very, very, very rare book. And, you know, there's a lot of Cuban freedom fighters that I like, you know what I mean? But when we talk about, you know, pre-Cuban Revolution days, and when they were fighting for their, you know, independence from Spain, nobody takes the place of Antonio Maceo, you know what I mean? There's others though, like Guillermo Macanda. There's many, you know? But I definitely like Antonio Maceo, because another thing about Antonio Maceo that I like is his discipline, you know, his regimen. And also he, off the battlefield, he was calm, actually shy, you know what I mean? Reclusive, as I said before. So I like that, you know. So with all of that being said about Antonio Maceo, I mean, I'm still bummed out that I couldn't get a cake for him. So I mean, the only way I basically can make it up right now is to just eat a pastelio cubano with the queso and the guava. And so that's just what I'm gonna do, man. I mean, that's all I can do. So I'll just stop somewhere and do that in order to honor him, you know what I mean? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, he did have a profound influence on my life, you know. He was a savage, you know. I mean, what other dude do you know who had not only like machete game, but he had gunplay too, you know? And what other dude do you know who is like an entrepreneur too? So with that being said, man, 21 gun salute for Antonio Maceo, and I'm off until the next one, guys. It looks like boxing is kind of gaining some momentum now. So, I mean, maybe the next video will be about Earl Spence and, you know, some comments that were made, and, you know, or maybe I'll do a live stream about boxing, you know, do some boxing talk on a live stream, you know. Other than that, man, I'm chilling, you know. I'm telling you, I miss traveling, but you know, there's blessing in disguise when things such as this happen, like when incidents like this happen with COVID and with all of these things, you know, God doesn't make mistakes, you know. So there was a reason behind it, and maybe that reason, you know, will reveal itself, will come to reveal itself, you know, later on. You know what I mean? But other than that, man, leave your thoughts and leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if Antonio Maceo made a profound influence on your life, you know? And with that being said, Fula signing out. John. I want to add one more thing about Antonio Maceo. Antonio Maceo was in over 500 battles, okay? And also in those 500 in those 500 battles, he was injured 25 times, okay? That's considered kind of a small amount for being in 500 battles. You know what I mean? So that's why I like him even more, is because he was always frontline with his. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll always have a place for Antonio Maceo.